Hello everyone. In this video I'll be translating and summarizing the latest Urdu broadcast by Moeed Pirzada to make it accessible for our English-speaking audience. Let's go through the key developments and insights in Moeed Pirzada's words. Before me are many significant and interesting developments. One unconfirmed but widely discussed news item on social media is that Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff, Field Marshal General Asim Munir, is expected to visit Washington on the 13th, 14th or 15th of this month to meet with the Trump administration. This hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, but the official Twitter handle of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI, is tweeting about it, suggesting people should protest. I'll talk about that too and try to give you a background analysis, but there are many other developments I want to cover first. Let's start with a global update just about 2 to 2.5 hours ago. US President Donald Trump, who is increasingly under political pressure even though it hasn't been 6 months since his administration took office, posted on Truth Social that he had a conversation today with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump described it as overall pleasant, but Putin made it clear that Russia will strongly retaliate against Ukraine's deep drone strikes and strategic bomber attacks inside Russian territory. Now, Trump didn't say whether he tried to stop Putin or not. US newspapers are discussing this intensely. Also note, Putin specifically mentioned drone strikes inside Russia, but hasn't yet publicly acknowledged any attacks on strategic bombers. However, he did say that in the past 24 to 36 hours, Ukraine attacked 3 to 4 bridges inside Russia, affecting civilians and railway infrastructure, calling these acts of terrorism and claiming Ukraine has no real interest in peace. These attacks notably occurred just before upcoming negotiations in Istanbul between Ukrainian and Russian delegations. So, what form Russia's response will take is uncertain. But Russia has issued a kind of warning to the US and Britain to stay out of the matter at this stage. Moscow is accusing the West of encouraging or supporting Ukraine's attack. The American perception is that if anyone helped, it was likely the British and Germans, though both are remaining silent. Just a day earlier, I told you about a former CIA Russia analyst who gave an interview to a publication saying the West is celebrating Ukraine's strikes as a major victory. Even after 48 hours, US and European media are treating these drone strikes as a turning point that caught Russia off guard, and are proof that Ukraine has leverage to bring Russia to the negotiating table. But the CIA analyst believes this may have crossed a red line, because Russia's nuclear threshold includes a possible response if its strategic assets are attacked. He doubts Russia will retaliate with nuclear weapons, but believes some large-scale military response against Ukraine is coming. Trump's troubles are growing. Consider this. Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the most powerful US lawmakers after the president, and a strong Trump supporter from South Carolina, has introduced a bipartisan bill with Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut to help Ukraine and punish Russia. Over 80 of the 100 senators support it. It's significant because unlike the House with its 435 members, the Senate is the upper chamber, and its resolutions carry more weight. The bill proposes a 500% tariff on countries buying Russian oil and gas, because that revenue helps fund Russia's war. 2 major countries affected would be India and China. Trump may want to include China in these tariffs, but likely not India. Yet Trump is in a bind, and the US debate is intense. Many believe the only reason the sanctions bill hasn't passed is because Trump isn't supporting it. Another blow to Trump came in the past 24 hours. Elon Musk, whom I had told you months ago in January would not remain friendly with Trump, has now publicly criticized him. Musk tweeted sharply against Trump's multi-trillion-dollar bill on defense, immigration and tax cuts, saying he came to reduce government inefficiencies, but the administration is increasing spending instead. Now, parachuting back from the Russia-China-Ukraine-US situation to Pakistan, today PTI leaders, including Sheikh Waqas Akram, Alia Hamza and other allied candidates, held a very effective 40 to 50-minute press conference. They presented data and evidence claiming that the recent election in Sargodha cannot be considered a legitimate election, but rather a show of government power. Sheikh Waqas argued that at polling stations, Forms 45 and 47 must be completed in the presence of polling agents from all parties. But this time, agents were forcefully removed, and the forms were filled in without them, rendering the process invalid. Therefore, PTI does not accept this as an election. Yes, physically a seat was won by the government, but the narrative that emerged is one of total defeat for them. PTI's narrative is resonating with people, while the government's is not. The question then is, if your narrative won't even sell, why hold an election at all? Just appoint someone directly. Compare this with India, where for 77 years elections have resulted in peaceful transfers of power. In contrast, no Pakistani election has been free from controversy. Most of them haven't even led to power transfer. Even the 1977 election, often said to be non-controversial, was not. Massive rigging occurred, and in 1971's election, the Awami League had full physical control over the polling stations. People forget that. This is Pakistan's misfortune. Just a day earlier, Salman Akram Raja made a powerful press conference, reminding that elections establish a bond between the state and its citizens. Pakistan was born from the 1946 elections. Don't destroy that relationship. It will lead to disastrous consequences, but no one seems to understand his warning. Another development, Umar Ayub, the leader of the opposition, who's been under pressure for a month with threats of disqualification, just received a one-month reprieve. His lawyer told the Election Commission he wasn't prepared, so the hearing has been delayed until July 1st. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif sent him a letter inviting him to consult on the appointment of the new Chief Election Commissioner and 2 commission members. The interesting part, the 26th Constitutional Amendment was highly controversial. It made it so that a Chief Election Commissioner remains in office until a replacement is appointed. But the Constitution also says that once the CEC's term ends, a new one must be appointed within 45 days in consultation with the opposition. The current Chief Election Commissioner, Raja Sikandar Sultan, completed his term on March 12th. From March 12th to now, over 80 days have passed. Only now has Shahbaz Sharif written a letter. Let's see what happens. Before we continue, let me remind you, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Click the bell icon for notifications and join my WhatsApp channel. By the way, they previously blocked its URL and now its visibility entirely as part of a conspiracy. I'll keep sharing it via pinned tweets and descriptions. Now moving forward, before anyone accuses me of being a friend of Modi, there's a very interesting development with serious implications. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Jammu and Kashmir on Friday to inaugurate a major bridge, the Chenab Bridge. Why is the Prime Minister attending the inauguration himself? This will be the world's highest arch railway bridge, standing at about 359 to 360 meters above the Chenab River and stretching 1,315 meters long. Previously, a similar bridge existed only in China, but this one will actually surpass it. Its strategic importance is honestly huge. It connects Udhampur in Jammu to Srinagar in Kashmir. It aids military movement, reduces travel distance through the mountains, and is a vital communication and logistics project. The railway line is 272 kilometers long, with 36 tunnels and 943 bridges. The bridge alone cost $24 million, while the entire project is worth over $1 billion. India must now protect it from inflammatory Pakistani TV anchors, some of whom, believe it or not, threaten to attack Indian dams. One of them had $100,000 spent to boost his YouTube visibility by Pakistan's Chaudhry Nizamuddin. These people often talk about destroying Indian infrastructure, so India must safeguard this railway line and these bridges from such threats. A very credible journalist was being discussed. You may not be familiar with him. Often people don't even know his name. He told me a few days ago that the inauguration of the railway bridge was actually supposed to happen on April 19th, and Narendra Modi was scheduled to attend. But due to bad weather, helicopter flights were not possible. For some reason, the visit was cancelled. According to the journalist, who is in close contact with India's intelligence services and frequently publishes stories based on that information, and I'll introduce him to you on TV sometime, once Indo-Pak tensions ease, he believes the resistance front had planned to carry out an attack during Modi's visit. Not necessarily targeting Modi, but to create a disturbance. Since the visit didn't happen, the planned attack couldn't take place. The attack that occurred on April 22nd was actually meant to happen during the inauguration of the railway line and bridge. Now, whether this information is true or not, only God knows. But that's what he told me. As something major is happening in Kashmir, many people are heading there. Let's get to the real matter. Pravin Swami, a man whom all of Pakistan seems united in praising, including the Asim regime and Pakistani defense officials. Even Pakistan's Defence Minister Khawaja Asif has praised him on Twitter. Pravin Swami visited Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir and recorded a video on his return. In the video, he criticised India's repression and said people are against it. But most notably, he said, Kashmiri youth claim they cannot trust Pakistan. Why? Because they believe if Pakistan's military and system can imprison a legitimate popular leader like Imran Khan, then they can't possibly have sympathy for Kashmiris either. How can such a Pakistan be trusted? How can such a Pakistan be honest with Kashmiris? That's what trust means. When I said in my vlogs that Pravin Swami is not being harassed in India, he sits in India and critically analyses India and even China, some of the government trolls on Twitter, paid employees, started attacking me. They said, "What's your relationship with Pravin Swami? He's a respectable professional, he speaks the truth. You're just a slave of Modi and a tout of Imran Khan." But since Pravin Swami's video came out, they've gone completely silent, like death itself. Because they had praised him so much earlier, now they don't know how to discredit him. Let's move on. Pakistan has achieved a significant diplomatic success. It has been appointed Vice Chair of the United Nations Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Committee. Countries like France, Russia and others are involved. The chair is likely with Ghana. Pakistan has also secured the chair of the Taliban Sanctions Committee, also known as the 1988 Committee. Why Pakistan got this is unclear, perhaps because it's currently a non-permanent member of the Security Council. But this is a major setback for India, especially after the Pahalgam incident, when India was building its case against Pakistan as a terrorism hub. Now, Pakistan being named Vice Chair of the UN's counter-terrorism body and chairing the Taliban Committee, this is a huge diplomatic blow for India. It's unclear why this happened, though India suspects failure on the part of Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and his ministry. Many in India see this as both a Western betrayal and a failure of Indian diplomacy. But in Washington, another theory is circulating, that the United States intelligence community wanted to send a message to Modi's government. They perceive Prime Minister Modi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Interior Minister Amit Shah, and Foreign Minister Jaishankar as arrogant, unstable leaders. By not supporting India in this recent conflict and instead enforcing a ceasefire, the West and the United States sent a signal: come down from your arrogance and face reality. In Pakistan, the narrative is India requested the ceasefire after suffering heavily. On the other hand, Pakistani officials, including Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and his delegation, have thanked Donald Trump many times for brokering the ceasefire. Even Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif thanked Trump. Meanwhile, India denies any United States role in the ceasefire, claiming it was a result of military negotiations between the two DGMOs. This contradiction seems strange. Pakistanis are acknowledging United States involvement, while India denies it. Only history will decide the truth. Now, since Bilawal Bhutto Zardari was mentioned, he arrived with a delegation including prominent names like Sherry Rehman, Haina Rabbani Khan, Musaddiq Malik and Jalil Abbas Gilani, the brains of the team, and Temina Janjua, Pakistan's former Foreign Secretary. They met with the UN Secretary-General, UNSC members, and the President of the General Assembly. Pakistani media suggests that Pakistan's chairmanship of the Counter-Terrorism Committee was due to Bilawal's diplomatic skills. But I believe this was just part of the regular UN process, not a personal achievement of Bilawal. Still, Bilawal did score one win in Washington. Today, likely June 4th, he and his team organized a major seminar at a think tank. Although it's unclear whether they met with Marco Rubio, it seems likely they will. The net effect. Pakistan as a state may not benefit much in the long term, but the ruling elite, the Sharif Zardari Asim regime, has gained significantly. Their direct connections and communication channels with Trump's team and United States decision-makers have been established, and that leads us to another event. If Pakistan's Army Chief General Asim Munir is visiting on June 13th to 15th, well, he may be trying to cash in on the goodwill from the recent conflict. Remember, Marco Rubio currently has an additional role as National Security Advisor. He had conversations with Pakistan's NSA Asim Malik. When he spoke with Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister advised him to call Asim Munir, which he did. At the time, Asim Munir was not yet Field Marshal. This improved access to US leadership is something Pakistani figures didn't get during the Biden or Blinken era. Professionally, it's important for us to understand this. Now, Bilawal made an interesting proposal that was actually originally mine, as I've mentioned many times in my vlogs, that a direct dialogue between ISI, which is Pakistan's intelligence agency, and Ajit Dval, India's National Security Advisor, could help resolve terrorism-related issues. Both sides know how much terrorism each is doing, Pakistan in India and India in Balochistan, so a meaningful dialogue is possible. Bilawal said that RAW and ISI should negotiate and work together against terrorist forces. That would be a major achievement. We all know, and Bilawal knows too, that most of these so-called terrorist forces are either Indian or Pakistani proxies. There's no real third party involved. So if ISI and RAW cooperate, India could scale back in Balochistan and Pakistan in Kashmir. But, many Indian-American analysts argue that Pakistan just can't scale back in Kashmir for long. Why? Well, because anti-India rhetoric is really what gives Pakistani regimes their domestic legitimacy. In contrast, India doesn't get any similar emotional value from Balochistan. It only engages there in tit-for-tat. It's a complex issue, but honestly, Bilawal is right. If RAW and ISI cooperate, terrorism could be significantly reduced. Finally, let's take a quick view of Iran. In the ongoing Iran-US nuclear deal negotiations, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said, Iran rejects the proposal offered by the Trump administration. He said Iran has the right to enrich uranium and will not accept restrictions. Under the 2015 JCPOA, Iran was allowed only 3.67% enrichment, but now Iran enriches up to 60%, still short of the 90% needed for a bomb. Iran is playing carefully. According to the New York Times and Israeli sources, the US has offered Iran permission for low-level enrichment for civilian energy. They may also facilitate Iran in building nuclear infrastructure with monitoring. However, Iran won't be allowed to set up new enrichment centers. Axios reported, based on documents they obtained, that the US has indeed allowed uranium enrichment, which shocked Netanyahu's government, who wanted to attack Iran. Now, instead of war, things are headed toward diplomacy. Iran is happy, internally celebrating, because they're being given recognition and space to grow their economy, which has been stalled due to crippling sanctions. Iran has enormous economic potential because of its oil reserves, but its development has been blocked due to international sanctions. Meanwhile, Trump recently mentioned in his Truth Social post that he had a discussion with President Putin. Putin reportedly told him that Russia wants to be a part of the Iran nuclear deal. That's a very significant move by Russia. While Trump didn't explicitly say he agreed to it, he did say he made it clear to Putin that Iran will not have a nuclear bomb, and President Putin understands that. So now, Iran, Russia, the US and Europe are moving towards some form of a nuclear agreement. As for Netanyahu's long-held desire to strike Iran militarily, it seems that moment may never arrive. Things are heading in a completely different direction. That wraps up our translation of Moeed Pirzada's video. I hope this English version helped you understand his message better. Please like, share and subscribe to Awami Lens to help our community grow. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of this effort.